The music, and this is where we look at the latest headlines in music, tech, and what's going on in the industry. We'll be starting the program in just a few moments, but first, some notes about today's program. Feel free to invite your friends to join in this show, and if you'd like to offer your thoughts on any of today's topics, you can request to join the stage and participate in the discussion, or comment in the chat in the video stream. You can find all of today's headlines on our website, musicindustrycity.com. Just head to the latest Music News at Noon post to see all the articles we referenced during today's broadcast. You can also register for free to get unlimited access to all the articles, news, and events in the city. And you may also watch us live on the video stream right from the website or on the Music Industry City YouTube channel. All right, is everybody ready? We begin our countdown right now.
Hello and welcome. It's great to have you with us on this Monday. I'm Peter Schwing, and here's what's happening. Dice buys live streaming platform. Deezer buys a stake in a live streaming platform. There's a big question going on. Why are we running out of vinyl? We have an answer for that. Twitch and Twitter launching new services, because what's a week without a social platform, streaming platform, adding new services? And we'll check in with our UK correspondent, Angela Randall, to talk about UK venues facing a tough winter. Plus, our daily Spotify update. Those stories are coming up. But first, let's take a look at this day in music history with Eli Window. Eli.
Thanks so much, Peter. All right, let's take a look at this day in music history. In 1970, U.S. singer Janis Joplin was found dead at the Landmark Hotel Hollywood after an accidental heroin overdose. In 2005, Mike Gibbons, drummer with Badfinger, died in his sleep at his Florida home, aged 56. And in 2014, Paul Revere, organist and leader of Paul Revere and the Raiders, died following a battle with cancer, in memory. Moving on to birthdays today. 1959, Chris Lowe, keyboards for Pet Shop Boys. 1965, Neil Sims, drummer, Catherine Wheel. And 1977, Richard Reed Parry, Canadian multi-instrumentalist, composer, producer, best known as a core member of the Grammy Award-winning indie rock band Arcade Fire. And 1984, Katerina Sergeevna, singer with the Russian music duo Tattoo. Happy birthday, everyone. Moving on to this day in music history, on October 4th, 1969, the Beatles' Abbey Road album went to #1 on the UK chart. The final studio recordings from the group supposedly contained clues adding to the Paul is dead phenomenon. Paul is barefoot, and the car number license plate, LMW 281F, supposedly referred to the fact that McCartney would be 28 years old if he was still alive. LMW from the license plate was said to stand for Linda McCartney Weeps, and the 4 Beatles represent the priest, John, dressed in white, the undertaker, Ringo, in a black suit, the corpse, Paul, in a suit but barefoot, and the gravedigger, George, in jeans and a denim work shirt. On this day, 2019, the Beatles' Abbey Road also returned to #1 in the UK, 50 years after it first topped the album charts after the release of an expanded anniversary edition of the record. The feat also sees the album set a record, the gap of 49 years and 252 days since its initial chart-topping run ended in early 1970. This is the longest gap before an album returned to #1 on the charts. Great day in history for Beatles fans today. That's it for this day in music history. Back over to you, Peter.
All right, yeah, big day on Abbey Road. And the whole Paul is dead thing, it goes so much beyond Abbey Road. I've gone I spent years following everything about it. Goes to Sergeant Pepper's. There's the bass player. It's a funeral. There's the OPD patch. They officially pronounced that. We could go on forever. But we won't because there's so many hidden things. I mean, it's the greatest thing. I mean, they did a sound analysis, Billy Shear's Paul Day in a Life. I mean, everything. We can go on and on. So, with
You
that
know
being
what, Peter? I feel like, just quickly, I feel like we don't even need Rorschach tests. We can just ask people their interpretations of Beatles album covers, right?
right. Yeah, and it's like there even on Abbey Road, if you flip it over on the back where it says the Beatles on the stone, it's there's cracks and it breaks it out to be at less, which also is French for like the Abbey for something, and it's also, somebody's buried there. It's like this whole thing. I mean, it's brilliant, whatever it is. And so, with that being said, we are going to go over to set the stage for the discussion. We provide informed perspectives and commentary on current headlines. If you'd like to offer your thoughts on one of today's topics, you can request to join the stage. I'd also like to say hi to everyone that is tuning in on our live stream, and that's on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. And with that, we can also check it out directly from the website. To stay up to date on this and other programming, you can sign up at musicindustrycity.com for more news, articles, and events. And speaking of events, the Power of Indie virtual conference, October 14th through the 16th. Well, we are partnering up for Music Industry City Future Music Forum series on October 14th, and its limited free tickets are still available. You can sign up. You can get those tickets at musicindustrycity.com. There's a big graphic. You can't miss it. And with that being said, let's get to it. All right, this one, Music Business Worldwide reported that after raising $122 million, Dice buys live streaming platform Boiler Room. Just a week ago, Dice announced a $122 million Series C fundraising round. Just to give you a little history, the Boiler Room began in the UK as, quote, as a webcam taped to a wall over a decade ago, and has now built a library of over 8,000 performances by over 5,000 artists across 200 cities. The two platforms will work together to, quote, enhance Boiler Room's offering and drive additional revenue to artists, rights holders, collectives, festivals, and clubs, in the announcement. Terry Wiggershingle and Blaze Belleville, Ibsen Omer, and Phil Hutchinson have been appointed to the new Boiler Room board, and over time this will be grown with new member appointments. The merger will also expand both teams' geographical reach, and Dice, talks about Dice, launched its live streaming last year and has already supported over 6,400 musicians in 147 countries. So I think this is... Yeah, and we're going to be talking about another acquisition in just a second. This is going to be the start of the consolidation of these live streaming platforms. We've already seen it. We've seen these investments. So these are going to be investors, or there's going to be these partnerships that are going to be with this mixed hybrid system for live music over time. All right, with that, let's go over to Music Business Worldwide again for this is that Deezer buys a minority stake in the live streaming company Driift, and that's with two I's. Deezer wants to use its technology and expertise to support Driift's future growth, including the launch of additional products and services. Deezer previously invested in DreamStage, a U.S.-based live music streaming service. To date, Driift has sold over 600,000 tickets for live streaming concerts with artists such as Nick Cave, Niall Horan, Kylie Minogue, and more. Driift, founded by Rick Salmon and Brian Message, conceived and produced the Live at Worthy Farm event at UK's Glastonbury Festival. The co-founders, ATC Management, are majority owners of the company, with Beggars Group as a minority shareholder. Driift's management team includes COO Claire Maas and PRO Sasha Duncan. Deezer CEO Geronimo Folguera said, quote, our investment in Driift is the next step in our expansion in this exciting and fast-growing space. It also allows for strategic investment in the live streaming platform DreamStage that they acquired in May this year. I look forward to working with Rick and Driift's management team. Well, here's something interesting. I was just talking about um, you know, this event that we're doing and saying that you can go register for free. And we have speakers. We have such amazing speakers. We have Simon Wheeler from Beggars Group. Well, Beggars was just announced in the news, but we have the chief operating officer of Driift that is going to be speaking at the event on October 14th. And so with this big news, we are surely going to have to ask her a little bit more about this. So again, if you want to check this out, you can go to musicindustrycity.com, and there's a big graphic that says, the Power of Indie Future Music Forum sessions on October 14th, and you can get those limited free tickets available. And then we're going to have Claire Mass, the chief operating officer of Driift, speaking. All right, with that being, we're going to move on to The Guardian. It's always been difficult for, anybody who has ever pressed vinyl knows, especially in the last decade, how incredibly long it takes to get vinyl pressed, because so many manufacturers had gone out of business over years, consolidated. And when you have such an increase in vinyl demand, well, you don't have enough supply. You don't have enough manufacturing plants, and it's expensive to get these equipment to produce more vinyl. And the challenge is that, well, how long is this going to run? It's a gamble, and we've seen there's very few around the world left. But now we're finding out there is even more of a reason that we're getting delays. And this is out from The Guardian. The article title is "First Petrol, Then Pasta. Now record labels are running out of vinyl." And again, if you want to dig into this article a lot, it's a great article. It goes really deep. We're just going to summarize it. But you can go to musicindustrycity.com, click on the Music Industry News at Noon post, today's post, and you can get links to all the headlines there. So this starts off, vinyl is back in vogue, which is too popular for little labels like Chris Howell's Night Force Revolution. So the article focuses a lot around Howell's label. So in addition to ABBA's new album Voyage, reissues by the Beatles and Rolling Stones are due later this month, as an 18 LP box set of David Bowie. Going back, Chris Howell was saying that, quote, "I have about 60 different vinyl releases that have been cut and at various stages of production, and I have been told by the record press that I'm unlikely to get any more this year." The IFPI, the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, reports that global vinyl sales have increased by almost 700% in the last decade. The shortage of PVC, the problem for making the vinyl is pressing the vinyl, comes after storms in Texas in February and 2020 shut down California lacquer mills, leaving only one factory in Japan, creating the master disc from which records are cut. So, and he goes on to say, a Taylor Swift album delay is inconvenient, but for the labels like Night Force, it's catastrophic. He goes on to say, the big artists I work with can afford to take time off to make music because it's actually worth it. But for him, his livelihood that's his entire livelihood. So it's really interesting. But the fact, storms, all these have effects. And we're talking about one factory in Japan is creating all the master discs. So it is going to be a little longer of a wait, or a lot longer of a wait at that. All right, let's go over to digital music news. Morgan Wallen is banned by the CMA Awards despite being nominated for Album of the Year. The CMA, quote, will not be inviting Morgan Wallen to appear on November 10th, a spokeswoman said. The artist was denied entry despite being nominated for Album of the Year. A little backstory is Wallen was filmed on video using a racial slur outside of his Nashville home, which he ultimately sold for $835,000 earlier this year. Wallen told the host of Good Morning America in his first interview since the incident, quote, "I was around some of my friends and we say dumb stuff together." The CMA board removed him from the artist-only entertainer and vocalist ballots in May, but the board allowed him to be nominated for albums, songs, music videos, and other works. The board says this decision was made, quote, so as not to limit the opportunity for other credited collaborators of Wallen's works. The CMA 2021 Album of the Year nomination is his first major country music award nomination. Both the ACM and CMT removed him from their ballots for 2021, and Wallen's label Big Loud dropped him after the incident, but reinstated him in May. Big Loud CEO Seth England said, quote, "Cancellation is a slippery slope." Wallen has received vocal support from his fan base, who bought billboards in support of the artist during the ACM Awards and Billboard Music Awards fiasco. This brings up, like saying it is a slippery slope, but there's something that was really key here, and this goes along with what they're talking about with R. Kelly. Is like, should they have his music removed? The decision that the board made here, and I think this is a key point, key area to discuss. And if anybody wants to come up and talk about this for a moment, feel free to raise your hand. But they said that they removed him as artist-only entertainer and vocalist, but they allowed him to be nominated for albums, songs, music videos, and other works because, quote, so as not to limit the opportunity for other credited collaborators. And that's it. That's the thing. This is where it gets that slippery slope. If they're canceled or they're removed from platforms, then everybody else that was involved in the making of these creations are penalized. So when they start saying it is a slippery slope, this is, affects other people. And that is probably one of the, that's one of those Pandora's boxes in a sense.
Yeah, I want to chime in here, Peter. I'm just gonna, as a committed anti-racist and a person who just has no time for this BS, anybody who collaborates with Morgan Wallen is out of my life too. Because as far as I'm concerned, if he's, quote, around some of his friends and they say dumb stuff together, chances are everybody or anybody that's been around them enough to collaborate in a songwriting or recording or brainstorming session or PR session or environment has potentially heard him say dumb stuff too, and should either have called it out, agreed not to work with somebody like that, or distant themselves from him. So as far as I'm concerned, if I were working on a record and I heard or learned of somebody that was being that inappropriate when it comes to using slurs and using racist language or what have you, that'd be the last time they come to my facility and the last time that I put my name anywhere near what they do. And I wouldn't expect accolades on the back of a record that was made by someone who blatantly throws those words around. And furthermore, it's important to remember that he didn't apologize. He excused himself and tried to explain his way out of it, which, as far as I'm concerned, is top of the list for cancellation. And I'm not even quick to do that sort of thing. I think cancel culture, it can get a little out of hand in some situations, but certainly not in this one. Just my point of view.
Thank you for that, Angela. And Zion, I see you've joined the stage. Did you have a comment for us on this topic? Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I did have a comment. I absolutely understand where Angela's coming from, but just speaking about it in a like more let me say logical perspective, I think what Peter said was important is the fact that there are other people that were involved in the project, and if you're taking away taking away the music that's already been done, that people have contributed their efforts to, and are actually going to benefit from it, there may be some black people that are benefiting from it too, and who contributed to the project. You're taking food out of their mouths too. I think people should be held responsible for what they do individually, but their art, if as long as their art doesn't reflect their person, then I don't think their art should be penalized. I think we need to separate business, art, and people. I'm Zion, and I'm done speaking.
And I thank you for that, Zion. Yeah, this is a topic that we could have our own room and go on for hours about. And it's the challenges of some people in his, like what Angela's saying, it's like some people close to him, maybe they were involved, that's how their behaviors, but they're also on the other side could be people that were just, hey, I'm involved in this project and I have nothing to do with him as a person and I've never been around him and things like that. So, but it is a slippery slope. It is, and it's a great I think it's something that needs to be discussed, because then, it's like if you start seeing this at somebody's early on in the career, then you got to nip this in the butt right away. That's where it's like everybody else should be on alert, unfortunately, to say like, hey, listen, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to get involved if you start seeing those signs. Like, I'm going to step out now and make sure and like put an end to this, before it gets blown out of proportion. So, or, so it is, thank you, Angela, for that. And Zion, thank you for that. But we're going to keep moving on. Again, we can also bring this back up again at the end. So, but we want to have to get through the rest of the topics here. And this one, let's check in with Eli.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Let's check in with me. And we'd like for you to check in with your friends as well. So feel free to invite them to the show. They can participate in the conversation the same as you by requesting to come to the stage, or comment in the chat if you're watching in our video live stream. Make sure that you follow your co-host. You'll be alerted when they're live. You can also watch the video live stream right from our website and access other content and articles, including our weekday 5-minute music industry news podcast, which keeps you up to date on items that may not be covered here, such as new releases, tours, musical chairs, business, and tech news. This is all in 5 minutes or less on the weekday 5-minute music industry news podcast. Quickly, in breaking news, we do want to let you know that we have worldwide reports from many of our listeners that social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp may be down right now. If you're experiencing that, feel free to send us a back channel message and let us know, or comment in the chat and let us know if your social media is up and running right now. But for now, we continue with our headlines. Moving on, we see that venues are facing a tough winter. With more on this UK headline, we turn to our UK correspondent, Angela Randall. Angela?
Thanks, Eli. The UK music venue sector is still facing a host of challenges, including staffing shortages, millions of pounds of debt, and uncertainty surrounding the possibility of winter restrictions. Many venues took part in the UK's furlough scheme, which covered the wages of people who couldn't work or whose employers couldn't pay them during the pandemic, but that concluded on Friday. The Nighttime Industries Association says that many of the employees and contractors who took part in that arrangement are leaving the sector, with Michael Kill, NTIA CEO, saying it is still, quote, some way off pre-pandemic staffing levels, end quote. At the same time, despite more than 80% of the British population having received both doses of the vaccine, daily COVID-19 infection rates have risen to more than 36,000 over the last month, aside the end of restrictions, which can leave businesses without staff at short notice. According to the Music Venue Trust, grassroots music venues are shouldering debt of £90 million. The organization's CEO, Mark David, told NME that the cash is unlikely to be cleared until 2024 or 2025. The average amount is between £80,000 and £120,000 per venue. He noted with some owing significantly more to landlords, suppliers, services, and the supply chain. Hits Daily Double reported sources also tell that ticket sales are significantly down due to a lack of customer confidence and uncertainty around restrictions that may come back into force as winter hits. Obviously, as these changes emerge, we will keep you up to date. Just as a personal aside, I will be attending my largest event since reemerging from lockdown on Friday. It's a venue with 20,000 capacity indoors. So far, so good. We're told that it's going ahead, but I'll let you know if any changes emerge or if there's any new data to come to light that would prohibit such events from taking place in future. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you for that, Angela. We're going to stick over to that big island nation over there and what's been going on. And again, we're going to continue with the Nighttime Industries Association. I mean, is Michael Kill basically like our Fauci? It's basically like he's like everywhere. Every time there's something about nightlife, he's got a quote, he's up there.
Yeah, I've spoken to him in clubhouse rooms myself, and he's a phenom. He's definitely a force to be reckoned with. He's the music industry in the UK's, or the nighttime industry, I should say, in the UK's number one advocate. And I'm seeing a knighthood in his future if he wants it, no doubt.
Next time over there, I'd like to buy him a pint. So next time you speak to him, let him know. So continue on. Yeah, on Complete Music Update. The Nighttime Industries Association says Scotland's new COVID passport scheme caused chaos and confusion this past weekend. Scotland's COVID passport rules for clubs and other venues have been attacked again by the Nighttime Industries Association. There is chaos and confusion at clubs and events around the country, the report states. Even while social distancing regulations have been lifted in England and venues can determine whether to check COVID or vaccination status of patrons at the entrance, there is still COVID-related rules in place elsewhere in the UK. In Northern Ireland, clubs remain closed and music venues can only operate with seated audiences. In Scotland and Wales, clubs and other venues must only allow clients who are completely vaccinated against the coronavirus. Due to the new entrance criteria this weekend, the app introduced in Scotland to give a digital COVID passport has been termed, quote, not fit for purpose. And confusion about which locations are affected and how the new restrictions function prompted chaos. Criticizing the new rules and how they have been implemented, Gavin Stevenson, the vice chair of NTIA Scotland, said this weekend, quote, it is beyond belief that the Scottish government have continued with this flawed, discriminatory, and unfair vaccine passport scheme against the advice of the affected sector and a majority of public health experts. Meanwhile, Donald McLeod, MD, at Glasgow-based promoter and venue operator Holdfast Entertainment said, quote, sadly and predictably, last night's front door trialing of the Scottish government's new COVID certification app proved to be problematic and highly confusing, with the vast majority of punters unable to access the app or show the required proof. This is appalling. Yes, he capitalized the app and then dashed hyphenated appalling. This is an appalling shambles which, if allowed to continue, will have a devastating effect on the very fragile nighttime economy. This ridiculous Big Brother experiment and infringement of an individual's civil rights should be dropped immediately. Oh, there's a lot going on. A lot to unpack there. Angela, you hear anything else? I'm like, you're closer to it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, you guys know that we're a country of countries, basically, over here. And while the NHS app and the COVID Pass that can be used in England, that I personally have used multiple times and actually runs very, very smoothly, Scotland has their own set of rules because they've had their own set of circumstances that contributed to higher spikes in the Delta variant, and as a result, other, very different sort of effects of COVID because it took longer for it to get there, frankly. And so they had it later on, but after a lot of us had already been locked down and already been able to reemerge. And also bear in mind that Scotland is very vast in space, but people aren't getting to the cities or to areas where their doctor's surgeries would be able to administer vaccines. So it's taken longer per capita, basically, for Scottish residents to get their vaccinations because there's just frankly not as much infrastructure, and you're traveling over vast swaths of land and in some cases water to get to the mainland to be vaccinated. So Scotland is its own sort of entity in this case, and it seems like they're going through the hiccups that we were all going through several months back when a lot of these were implemented for the first time. So hopefully they'll get it together and we'll be able to have set an example for them. But at the moment, it seems like they're having quite a time with it. So fingers crossed that gets sorted immediately.
Right on. Right. Thanks for that. Yes. And winter is coming. All right, we're going to stay with the Netherlands because this has been ongoing for a while. They've had protests a few months, and there was a lawsuit filed against the government, and this one's from IQ Mag, and this is the Dutch event sector loses summary proceedings. 20 organizations, including Mojo, ID&T, and Unmute Us, and Apparent Events, demanded in court that all events and club nights be allowed again without restrictions on capacity and time. Currently, indoor events must close between midnight and 6 a.m. as of September 25th. And the Dutch event industry has long maintained that the government's limits do not reflect 3 months of field lab research. However, a judge said that the outbreak management team, OMT, has, in fact, factored in the results when giving advice to the outgoing cabinet. Quote, that has led to a decision to gradually relax with the abolition of 1.5 meter measure, but with additional measures for indoor events. Rudy Van Stralen, the CEO ID&T Group, adds, quote, "We are extremely disappointed. We have been standing still for over 18 months and in that time have demonstrated through various field labs together with the government that we can safely organize events. The reason we are still not allowed to open completely is not substantiated." Go on, quote, "The field lab advice explicitly states that organizing events at 100% capacity, both indoor and outdoor, is safe if the guidelines from the research are followed. Our field lab results are successfully used in Belgium to organize events safely at 100% capacity. It is incomprehensible that we in the Netherlands still have to remain partly closed, while at the very last step would be that the 1.5 meters would go off. Now we are at the very last step." The Dutch government has attempted to soften the blow of the restrictions by announcing a €15 million fund to compensate promoters and venues for lost revenue from indoor standing shows, on top of its €385 million guaranteed fund. All right. Quick update. I don't remember Next Big Sound back in the day of all those platforms, new services for data analytics, and then they all got gobbled up. Well, Next Big Sound is closing. All right. Next Big Sound, the music analytics platform that launched 12 years ago and was acquired by Pandora 6 years ago, has announced its closure. Its staff will now join Pandora's artist marketing platform, the AMP. Next Big Sound's business analyst Jay Troop said, "It's been a wild ride. After 12 years of tracking music data across hundreds of thousands of artists and hundreds of billions of streams, it's time to say goodbye." Next Big Sound will be shutting down on November 1st, 2021. It also adds that Pandora's AMP tools have already been the primary focus of our development and growth for 2 years. Pandora bought Next Big Sound in 2015 after Spotify and Apple bought the Echo Nest and Music Metric, respectively. As with those platforms, once NBS has been taken over by one particular streaming service, the other streaming platforms stopped providing their data to it. As a result, and as with the Echo Nest and Music Metric, the focus increasingly became data projects within the parent company, although NBS lived on as a brand. Pandora has debuted AMP 7 months prior, and the Next Big Sound acquisition seemed to be an attempt to strengthen it. But no one expected it to take 6 years to properly integrate the two platforms. Some services that Next Big Sound continue to offer after the Pandora acquisition will no longer be available to users after the switch to AMP. Remember when Alex White just launched that? I mean, we were doing a lot of great work with Next Big Sound in helping to find the Artists on the Verge program that we did. We were using Next Big Sound and Music Metric on the data side, and it was amazing to see what they were doing. So, with that, we're going to stick more with technology here. We just have two. This is we're going to talk about Twitter and Twitch, and this one is from TechCrunch. Twitter for Professionals will begin to roll out this week for businesses and creators. Professional accounts will allow businesses and creators to differentiate their profiles, promote content rapidly through adverts, and take advantage of Twitter's future e-commerce activities. Twitter has given monetization opportunities for popular tweeters, but not for companies as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have already done. Professional accounts must be real, having a name, a bio, and a profile picture, and must not have a history of breaking Twitter's guidelines. No accounts for imaginary characters, parodies, or pets at this time. Not all users can switch to a professional account yet. When it launches, users can locate a Twitter for Professionals page by swiping open the sidebar from the app's home timeline. Adding a, quote, switch to professional option to your profile settings, then choose a category and a company or creator account type. After converting to a professional account, you can follow topics, promote a tweet via ad campaigns, and add modules to your profile. A newsletter module for review users, which Twitter acquired earlier this year, is among the new modules. And Twitch goes, what's a week without updates and new services rolling out on any of these platforms? This is an interesting service that they're looking at, and this has already had some people on both sides of the fence yelling at each other. Twitch tests letting viewers spend money to promote channels. The test is being conducted by Twitch of a feature for viewers to buy boosts for their favorite channels. According to TubeFilter, Twitch product manager Jacob Rosock stated, quote, What we're doing with Boosts is giving viewers the ability to buy super high visibility promotions for their favorite creators, and these types of placements come with a cost. A fan of a channel can pay 99 cents for 1,000 recommendations of its stream to new viewers, or $2.97 for 3,000, according to screenshots shared by people who've seen the test. The channels will be recommended in Twitch's live channels We Think You'll Like homepage section. There appears to already be a spirited debate going on in its creator community about whether this is a good, bad move by Twitch, though. Bring on the bots. I mean, seriously, like, let's just get some bots in there. I mean, to get $3 for 3,000 followers, I mean, recommendations. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, if just economics. I mean, if you're a streamer that's got a lot, already making enough revenue to put into a marketing budget, $3 for 3,000, that's a good deal to get you pushed into the top. I mean, yeah, this is going to cause this is another area where people like, listen, it's only the people with money, or it's only the top streamers are going to continuously always get there, and there's no support for upcoming streamers, which is not necessarily true, but on certain platforms, it makes it even more difficult for those early, younger fledgling streamers to get attention. That's the biggest. I think it's not about, hey, you're a big streamer, therefore you're everywhere. It's more about the fact that it used to be, every platform started off, it used to be like, oh, you can ride that wave and you could be starting out and you had opportunity. And yes, are more opportunities available to people that have pushed through and rose, to the top? Yes, of course. But when they start doing things like this, which is taking away other opportunities, it's making it even more difficult, because a lot of these platforms already don't support the smaller streamers. So, that's what people are really complaining about. If I've looked through some of these comments, and that's where I'm basing these off of. So if anybody has any thoughts, feel free to jump up. But it's that time. It's our favorite part of the show.
Big green dot, hits the spot.
The big green dot, it does hit the spot. It's now time for our Spotify spot, where we take a look at the latest updates from the streaming service. But before we do that, we do want to check in with your weather. It's a gray day today. Keep your eye out on your forecast. Stormy weather coming up for you. And now over to you, Peter. What do you have for us today for the Spotify spot?
All right, we have DJ Mag. Spotify has launched new DJ mixes. So yes, they have added DJ mixes to its streaming platform, allowing DJs to add full-length mixes to its service. Initially, the mixes are launching in 8 territories, including UK, Ireland, the Netherlands, Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, Australia, and New Zealand. The new format launches with mixes from Noisa, Adam Beyer, Shingo Nakamura, and Moti. It's not yet clear how Spotify's monetization process will work for mixes, or who can upload the mixes to the platform. Given the fact that it's available in 8 territories, it's likely to be a soft launch, and more details will be forthcoming. This move comes off the back of Apple recently announcing that their music streaming service will allow both content providers, DJs, and the artists in their mixes to be paid as if the track was streamed through their regular streaming service. This is interesting. So, is this going to be pulling people away from Mixcloud and other platforms and what SoundCloud has done? So, all right. And with that, that is going to be it for our reads. We're going to open up the stage to our audience. I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock. If you'd like to offer your thoughts or comments about today's topic, now is your chance to join the conversation.
That is correct. And if you'd like to offer your thoughts on any of today's topics, request to join the stage or post something in the chat. And remember, you can find all of today's show headlines at musicindustrycity.com. Does anyone have any thoughts on our headlines from today? Angela, your final thoughts for us?
I was just going to say I'm very interested in this new DJ mixes Spotify option. And considering it's launching here, I'm going to put one of the chief engineers at our studio on it and see what the deal is. I'm wondering if there's any restrictions, because what would stop somebody who's been given a mix to do for an artist's record that didn't end up making the record from releasing their own version of the song and confusing people? as to which one is the official release. I mean, I could call myself DJ anybody, and if the multi tracks or the stems are available somewhere, I could essentially mix somebody's work and release it. And Spotify would kind of pay me for doing it, even if the artist didn't hire me to do it in the first place. It's very, very odd. So yeah, I'll be looking more into that for sure and getting back if I hear anything else. But yeah, between that and the new Twitch test, I'm with you, Peter. It sounds like it's a strange one. But I'm also thinking about the fandoms. Some of these Twitch channels have a tremendous amount of young viewers, especially in the gaming sector, and I can just see these kids, filling up their Twitch wallets with, money to support their favorite Twitch channels, and we're going to start seeing. I mean, it's almost a form of gambling. We're going to start seeing some crazy stuff going on there. It's not unlike tokens for Fortnite. If you're going to support your favorite Twitch channel, you could become fan of the month or whatever if you've paid the most to have their Twitch channel promoted. So I'm anxious to see how that one goes after the test as well. Interesting day for news.
Angela, I see you follow me on Twitch, and you're always there for me. You know something? Um, every day, could you just drop $3? Next week, drop $15. So every day, drop $3, so you can, help me get more people, get more eyeballs on it. So that's 3,000 people. And Angela, since you're a good fan, and you're great. I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to double that. So can you give me your Cash App, Venmo, whatever? I'm going to give you $30, and you spend that $15. So thank you very much, Angela. Go have a few pints on me.
Sounds good, Peter. Sign me up. It's that simple, folks.
If it in the end it's going to help me generate more revenue, then it's worth it. That's what marketing is.
Yeah, I can just see it being. It can't be good. It sounds like it could be trouble.
It
Right on.
it definitely sounds very gamified to me, and it sounds very much like in-app purchases happening on Twitch channels to me. But I wanted to say again that as we start to wrap up today's show, thank you all for tuning in to our show today at the Music News at Noon. Thank you to everybody who joined in the conversation, messaged us, and chimed in the chat rather on the video stream. We hope that we're going to see you here each and every Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to spread the word. Visit musicindustrycity.com to stay up to date on all the current happenings in the music industry, post in the community, and access other amazing resources. My name is Eli Window, and on behalf of our UK correspondent, Angela Randall, I want to thank you so much for joining our broadcast today. And now, Peter, can we get your final thoughts on today's headlines?
Right on. Yeah, I mean, just to go back to the Twitch. I mean, it is all gamified. I mean, that's what Twitch is all about. It's gamers. So I like Twitch's ecosystem. I love their ecosystem for artists. I really do. I think it's great. It's great opportunities. Bits, tipping. I mean, if I want to play a sound, I go on somebody's stream, and I always just play to let them know I'm there. I drop them 100 bits, and I play a duck sound. Because and I always try to scare because he always has headphones on, so you don't do it while they're singing, but while they're talking, you just do a duck quack. And it's oh, and she's like, Peter. It's like she knows. It's like that's my intro, but I'm always giving her a tip. It's like I walk in the door, I throw a little tip in the jar, and I go quack. But that's the fun part of it, and that's what the community aspect is about. I just think when it starts getting to this is going to open up the bots. I think really this is going to turn into, and there's already talks about bots that are doing falsifying numbers, and Devin Nash, who's very outspoken about YouTube and Twitch, what goes on behind the scenes. He's kind of he's the person that's the Twitch, not necessarily Twitch police, but the all things Twitch. If you check him out, Devin Nash on YouTube. So with that, just final thoughts is make sure that you sign up and register and get your ticket for October 14th through the 16th. It's the Power of Indie Virtual Conference and Music Industry City. We're doing our Future Music Forum series on October 4th. We got a whole block that we have some great speakers. We have Emily White doing a fireside chat. We have Mark Mulligan with a keynote. Martin Atkins doing a mic drop Yeah, it's 10 minutes. He is going to let's let it ride. We have great talks about NFTs, blockchains. Yes, we got to do it. And we have some great people, labels, distribution, live music, live streaming. We have the COO of Driift, who we were just talking about. So check it out. musicindustrycity.com. There's a big graphic there, and you can get those tickets now. And yeah, get them now before they run out. And with that being said, I think we're going to call it a day. So that's it for the music industry news at noon on this Monday from New York. I'm Peter Schwing, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. I hope everybody has a great day. Ted, I see you down there. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.